Lieutenant Daniel E. Wilson with us this morning. He's Navy retired SEAL, so it should be very interesting. And his lovely wife, Robin, is with him too. We're glad to have you. I'll tell you a little bit about Lieutenant Wilson. Lieutenant in the Navy is like a captain, which is like a general.
Well, in my opinion.
Yes. Okay, so we got that straight. He's retired Navy officer with 22 years of active service in both enlisted and officer rank, with a final assignment as the head of military construction program for the Navy Medicine, Washington, D.C. He then continued to serve his military comrades for an additional 19 years as a contracted program manager in the development and implementation of DoD health facilities management application around the globe. Dan also authored numerous books, including the A.S.K Force, A.S.K Force, Ask America, Ask for Purpose, and his latest 2020 release, Playing the Trump Card. Along with hosting a national radio program, American Champions, in 2016, he has been a guest speaker at various leadership and social venues around the country. Don and his bride Robin operate Azul Soul LLC and Azul Soul Publishing. Their offices at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania and Cocoa Beach. He is an active member of the UDT SEAL Association, SEAL Museum of Fort Pierce, and Military Officers Association in Melbourne. We are very, very happy to have him as our speaker this morning. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much, Evelyn.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm actually a little overwhelmed because, you know, I've actually spoken in a number of venues and we've followed presidents around. We've been to the governor's ball and done all kinds of things, but I have to tell you, I think this is the most powerful group of people that I think I have ever spoken to. Just the concept, as I was going through trying to prepare what I might say, and of course I don't know you all, and I tend to be a little on the political side. I hope that's okay. I really think patriots have to get in the fight right now. You know, I'm a SEAL, I did that for a reason, right? But the thought that our Declaration and our Constitution were what your parents in the past gave us in this country. Probably, well, next to the Bible, there's nothing greater than what your ancestors have done for us. And I have to tell you, the more I thought about it, the more I got a little nervous. So if I'm a little nervous, you just have to excuse me. I'll try to throw a joke or something in here and there. But if it fails, just laugh anyway. It's pretty good. So I did write books. I have to tell you, I started it off writing a book for a homeschool project. My wife challenged our kids and me because I was working all over the world, building a software program to manage our military hospitals. And so we take them everywhere we go. And she goes, all right, your assignment is to write a book in a month. So I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm the only one that did it. The kids and her, they just didn't do anything. So, but I started that off, and I thought, well, that wasn't too hard. So then I wrote a little history on who I was and how God had orchestrated my life from a nobody. I quit high school early. I didn't even go to high school, really. Quit high school, joined the Navy, and then I had some mentors that brought me up and did some things with me. So I explained a little bit about what I did, what I learned while I was in the SEAL team, and how mentors, people that had been there, done that, had kind of nurtured my life up through at the hand of God, right? Pretty simple. And then in 2016, I was running a radio show. I had a radio show, America's Champions, and I'd interview people like, what's the one guy? Ben Carson, I don't know if you know him. Dan Bongino, people all over the country. And I would just go around and we'd interview those folks. So I thought, well, I'm going to write a book. So I wrote a book, Ask America. And just to let you know, ask is from Jesus's ask and it'll be given, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open to you. And leading a few men's groups, I thought, you know, that's kind of an appropriate thing. So that's where I got the Ask Force from here. And then my latest, before the Trump card, was Ask for Purpose, which hopefully would help people figure out what God has done in their life to bring them to where they're at. It's my opinion that God has created every single one of us. And you can look around the room, you're all beautiful. I can't say that at most places I go to because there's always some ugly guy somewhere. But you are all beautiful, but you're not at all the same, are you? Is there anyone here who has ever had a perfect, exact person, even if you're a twin, that's just like you in every way? Absolutely not. Since Adam and Eve Adam was chasing Eve around the garden, right? There has never been two people exactly the same. We are all called to be unique. We're all called for a purpose. I say that God created us on purpose for a purpose. And hence, that's why we're all here. And that's why I kind of went into speaking, because I took the concept of mentoring and training to real heart. You know, I mean, it got me the idea that somebody else would put time into my life to kind of straighten out a kid who, you know, quit high school. I was in like 5 cop cars by the time I was 10. I'd done all these things, and somebody looked at me and said, you know, you're a mess up, but I think we can fix you a little bit. So it kind of worked out pretty well. I ended up, you know, getting a college degree and going on and doing some stuff. And I appreciate Evelyn giving a little bit of my history there. Just for the fact that you can come up from a nobody with nothing, and then I was the head of the military construction program for Navy medicine, and kind of, you know, I'm not an architect or an engineer, and yet I was telling them how we wanted a hospital to be designed, you know, San Diego, Portsmouth. I worked at Bethesda, or what is now Walter Reed, and other places like that. But God had just guided my path to fail until I got to a place where it was purposeful. Kind of like your ancestors and those of us, those that had started this nation, one nation under God, right? So I'd like to, I'll see if I can make it fun, but when I start getting into the political side of life and everything, and hence my last book, Playing the Trump Card, was kind of a unique thought at the time. When I started writing this book, Trump hadn't jumped into the race, so I was just unsure of how it was all going to play out. And I had my radio show, and then towards the end, at the election time, I started looking at, I like names. You know how the Bible kind of has names, right? Jacob was changed to Israel, right? He was changed from a guy who was a deceiver into Israel, which is a blessed something or other. You know, Abraham, his name was changed. Leah's name was changed. It was like, in scripture, there's a reason God gives names, and I thought, well, I wonder what everybody's names were. So I started looking, and I thought, well, Donald Trump is real easy. Donald Trump is probably the simplest name you can think. Donald means king. You know, when you hear the word the Don or whatever, the king, right? And Trump is a wild card. So Donald Trump is the king of wild cards. So I went on and I started looking at things. We were Ted Cruz people at the time. He was a godly guy, and his name, I looked up Ted Cruz, and Ted, I was like, well, I don't know how that fits in. His name's not Ted, it was Raphael. So I looked up Raphael Cruz, which means healed by God through the cross. And I thought, okay, well, that seems to be going pretty good because that's my guy, you know. We need a healing in America, right? So I thought, I kind of like that. And then I thought, well, I'm going to look at Bernard Sanders, which, well, Bernard means bear, and Sanders is a Russian name that just kind of like Smith. It means, you know, you're a Russian. So he's a Russian bear. And I was like, okay, well, that kind of fits. He's here with that kind of a bent, but Hillary Clinton cracks me up because Hillary Clinton, and this is where I started thinking a little more about it. In Gaelic, Hillary means hilarious and Clinton means cliff. So I don't know how you stand politically, but my thought was that has to be about right. And that's where I thought, playing the trump card, we have to figure out how do we play what God has given us. And I'm going to tell you, which is really an honor being here. This whole book, it didn't take me that long because in the back, I actually have the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So probably about half of it is my writing. The other half is your ancestors that wrote it for us, right? And that is what America is founded on. That's really right now, that's what we're lacking, right? And again, I know I might offend some of you folks, you ladies. I apologize if I offend, but at the same time, our nation is no longer that shining city on a hill. And I like what Abraham Lincoln said. You have to excuse me, I can't remember what he said, even though I've written it a number of times. I have it in my book. At the Lyceum in 1838, he said, "Shall we expect some transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined, with the treasures of the earth, excepting our own, in their military chest, with Bonaparte for a commander, could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track on the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. At what point then is the approach of danger to be expected?" And Abraham Lincoln says, "I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As the nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide." And in my book, I basically say, though Lady Liberty appears bent on marching towards her self-made gallows, because we are marching towards our own hangman's noose that we have created or allowed to happen, I still believe that we, the people, have an opportunity to change America. And this is where I have to tell you, thank you so much for being who you are, because you are carrying that torch that ignited America and made us that shining city on a hill for the entire world to see. Sadly, those of us today, and myself included, I'm sitting here, or I'm traveling the world doing a lot of fun things. When you're a SEAL, it's kind of fun. I joined the Navy because they said, "Oh, we got these guys, I don't know anything they do." This recruiter, he goes, at our school, and he goes, "I have no clue what they do. All I know is they go around blowing things up, shooting guns all day long, scuba diving, parachuting, and doing things that I don't know what else." And that's what I kind of did. I went around and had a lot of fun. There's nothing like blowing stuff up. So during that time, I didn't get involved in politics, and I didn't get involved in the fabric of our nation. It's not until you realize that paradise could be lost that you start getting involved. And I hope you ladies are all still involved. I hope you're active, because you know the truth. You've been there, probably know how the past was. I mean, I remember back to the 50s, and it was a different world. It was a different world where you could go around. I mean, I started hitchhiking when I was just like real young, 9, 10, started doing stuff, traveling, doing stuff, I never had to worry about being abducted or anything crazy like that. I lived a life that my parents and their parents gave us in this country, and I got to work with it. So this book, Playing the Trump Card, and I'll take this back, the Declaration of Independence in the preamble says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator. So I'm going to tell you, in the book, I focus around what are called the 4 cornerstones of America. The first one is the creator. And it says, with certain unalienable rights of these, which are life, let me do it this way because it's easier to hold up fingers. Creator, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Exactly. On those 4 foundations, our nation has been built. And in the last 50, 60 years, actually, I'll say since President Eisenhower, our nation has been attacked from within. And the first thing they did in 63, actually I'd say that, 63 during Kennedy, and just before his assassination, the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in our land that is supposed to uphold our Constitution, took God out of school. When you take God out of school, the other foundations, because the Creator is the first. If you're going to plumb a building, when they built this building, they put in what's called the cornerstone. And Scripture says Christ is the cornerstone. That cornerstone determines the plumbing in all directions. They took that out first. And then it wasn't but a little bit more than 10 years later, they said that we could murder the most innocent in all of humanity, the child in the womb, and say it's okay. And that, so again, what is it? Right? Creator, life. Second thing they got rid of the Creator, they got rid of life. And then after that, it's very simple. They take away our freedom. And they have been doing that since. And I'm going to say they, I can go back and I can point. So a good example, James K. Polk, during his tenure, created a thing called the Associated Press. Have any of you heard of the Associated Press? Okay, he's a Democrat. Way back then, the Democrats were pro-slavery, right? We've been fighting that battle forever. The subtitle of this is As America's Civil War Continues. So James K. Polk created what's called the Associated Press, which runs the news venue, everything you ever see. If you ever watch different programs and everybody says the same thing over and over and over, it's because the AP gave them the talking points they do. And I listen to BBC, I listen to Australia, I listen to everybody. They all say exactly the same thing that comes from the Associated Press. Back after Kennedy's assassination, which I think John Kennedy was a phenomenal man, and I believe he was going to fight those that were trying to take over America. But Johnson put in place 2 other things that helped run the media around the world. And from a SEAL perspective, the first thing you want to do to destroy your enemy is take over communication. That's always the first target. If you can take out the radio man or the communication, you take that out, because if you can stop communication, you win. So the first thing Johnson did was create 2 programs, the Public Broadcasting System, PBS, and now I got to think of it, National Public Radio, NPR, okay? When Obama got in office, the first thing he did was create this thing called an Obama phone. And then he gave the internet. The United States created the internet. And Barack Hussein Obama gave the internet control entirely to the to the European government, the EU. So total control of the media that we have in the world is based and founded on those 4 aspects right there. And it's a very scary thought, 5 aspects, because the internet, as we know, Facebook, anybody that can come out and censor the President of the United States on their media program before an election, a re-election, and everyone else. I mean, I can't even tell you how many major entities around the country were censored, taken off Facebook, taken off Twitter, and taken off other programs. And now they're coming after those entities, and they have lawsuits against them. So the Supreme Court and our media are a real challenge. And we need collectively to say, we can't let that happen. And the sad thing is, because they control media, they control what most Americans and most people around the globe hear, whether it's true or not. And if everything is from one perspective, the truth can never be known. So we're in the midst of that battle. And you have to excuse me, I had a lot more totally different aspects on some areas that I was going to talk about. But I know I'm limited here, so I don't want to keep you ladies. You're probably very hungry. Let me flip through here so we can go there. So George Orwell, in his book 1984, said it best: He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. Again, the media has total control. They can wipe out, and I did this 15, 20 years ago when I was doing research. I was able to find things that were basically our history. I could go out there and find the preamble of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I could find pictures of presidents from the past and find out where they stood and what they did. When I was writing this book, Ask America, during the Obama administration, when I went out to search for guidance, I realized probably about 80% of what I looked for and I had found before was missing. And everything directed us to the Obama administration policy programs. For me to find the pictures I put on this cover literally took me a couple weeks, because it was so hard to find anything from our past. And so I'm in this battle. And Robin, well, I have to tell you how important you women are. Again, I didn't do anything. I didn't know politics. I didn't know where I stood on anything. And then she kind of slapped me a few times and said, "You need to pay attention, mister," and kind of hooked me up on listening to some stuff. Women are truly the power. When the nation, I can guarantee this, back in the 1770s, it wasn't those guys like the George Washingtons and the who we have, Thomas Jeffersons and John Adams. It was their wives saying, "I have kids. I want them to have an America. I want them to have a land worthy of living in." It was the women behind the men that made us do what we did. And I can tell you, my wife is a perfect example. She said, "Our future is on the line. You need to learn this." And she made our kids sit down and actually listen to, you may not like him, but Lord, thank you for Rush Limbaugh. She said, "You will listen to Rush Limbaugh. We're going to listen to it every day at noon." So we did a lot of Rush Limbaugh stuff. In my book, I write about something, though, that can give us hope. I wrote in Ask for Purpose, I created this compass. You know, a sailor, pretty simple. You got to have a compass in life. So I created a thing called the Hope Rose, with H, honor, being the north point. It's honor, opportunity, purpose, and enthusiasm that creates a future. So I believe that. I believe we have hope in America if we can follow those principles, if we are honorable in what we do, if the opportunity arises for anything, talking to somebody. We got a young guy who just came up out of the blue. We met him up in Maryland, and the guy's like 26 years old. You know, I'm well in my 60s, and he hangs around with us. He's always trying to figure out what we're thinking, because he knows that we have experiences, and we can't get rid of the kid. He's always there everywhere. We're out in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, and all of a sudden he comes riding up on his boat. He goes, "What are you guys doing?" You know, out of the blue. And I'm thinking, don't you have friends to go play with or something, you know? But no, he comes up because we have something to share, and he knows there's a truth somewhere there. So needless to say, he came down here and he's hung out with us for the last couple of days. We finally got rid of him for a couple of days so we can go on dates and stuff. But the opportunity like that, we have such a great thing. And I learned from him because there's things that are happening today that I didn't know. So that makes a difference. And then purpose. If we all have our own purpose, we are created on purpose with a purpose. And if we follow that purpose, whatever that might be, you know, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And I appreciate you ladies being here. You have a purpose. You are the present teaching us about the past. So please, grow, get bigger. I don't know how many daughters of the American Revolution there are in America, but I can guarantee you we need to find more, because we need somebody that will carry that torch down to where we go. And the last part is enthusiasm. Be enthusiastic about what you're doing. You may not think you're doing much, but trust me, you're doing it. Just having this meeting is an amazing thing. The power and the history that comes behind each one of you. I can't even tell you how important it is. Again, we've been all over the place, and what you are doing here today, just by meeting, and what you said in your opening remarks and such, make America great and make it what it is. Tocqueville said it simply. He said, America is great. This is back just before the Civil War. He said, America is great because America is good. If America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. And we don't want that. So let me finish with this one last piece. And again, this is from Abraham Lincoln. We hail kind of from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, so everything I write about pretty much has something to do with that. And this is from Abraham Lincoln, and the first part he says, in 1776, he basically says something else, but he said, our fathers, and I'm going to say this, your fathers, because I can actually say that, know that this is true, brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. And he says this back then, he goes, now we are engaged in a great civil war. We today are in a civil war. We know that. You can look at the polls, 50-50. We are so split and divided. We're in a war. And he says, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. I'm not going to finish that just yet. There is another person, Tytler, who, from Scotland, who many years ago wrote that democracy has a cycle, and you go from bondage to enlightenment to freedom and then it goes around, and eventually you work your way back to apathy and bondage again. And he said that process generally takes 200 years. Our Civil War postponed it, but we have done that. We have created an apathetic environment in America that we have to help fix, right? But we can do it. I still have that hope rose: honor, opportunity, purpose, and enthusiasm. So then Lincoln goes on to say this. He says, again, whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure, but that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And I believe that's really what we're called for. And I thank you so much for meeting, ladies, and thank you for inviting me over here. I think I'm supposed to say, do you have any questions? Do you have any answers? That's what I prefer. You know, yes, ma'am.
How should we fight the influence in our colleges on our young people that is so negative and so socialist.
That's actually so the number one is you take over communications, and then in the book, I say the second one is education. And it is, that we all know that's how you do it. And Hitler, right, created the Jünger group where anybody from 10 to 18 was mandated to learn read the Third Reich and actually make an oath to become a Nazi. They've done that in our schools. They've done it for years. And again, it goes back to the Supreme Court. Once they took God out, anything can flood that scenario. I believe we're at a point, I think there's terms out there, the Great Reset, we have to reboot, we have to do this, we can't do it as it is right now. So the Supreme Court just yesterday came out with their findings. I don't know if you ladies had heard it or not. So we're from Pennsylvania, and there are about 90 lawsuits that came out about election fraud, right? 90 of them. And the media tells you all of them failed. All of them were fake and all of them failed. Well, the reality is none of them failed. Only 3 of them were heard, and all 3 of them succeeded. None of them failed. They weren't heard by the justices. So the Supreme Court last week just took up, I don't know how many of it, dozens of them for Pennsylvania, which we're intimate with because we know, our representatives and stuff, we know the leaders. And they basically said that we will not hear any of these cases and dismissed all of them. So the Supreme Court of the United States, who willingly says we can murder babies in the womb and we can allow illegal enemies of the state to flood through our borders, they're not going to pick up the challenge against election. They're not even going to listen to it. I mean, it would be one thing if you could listen and say yes or no. But with 90 lawsuits and literally thousands upon thousands of people who have signed affidavits saying, I swear that I will go to jail, I saw this happen and this happened. And they did nothing. So where does it come from? Where's our challenge? It goes back to Supreme Court. Supreme Court is evil, and Congress is evil, and all these other things. Where do we go? It has to be a major reset. And I'm going to go back to your forefathers and bring it back to that one thing. We the people have to do something. So Robin and I are working with other folks, a lot of some folks. We want to get a petition to have one thing, to sue our government for a lack of election integrity. Not saying there's fraud, I know there is, but not saying that, not trying to overturn the election, but to look at the evidence, because they have reams and reams, literally millions of pieces of evidence where they were monitoring the election process. And if they can get away with stealing an election, 2022 doesn't matter, 2024 doesn't matter, nothing matters. Whoever controls our voice wins, right? What is the election? We the people. Well, they just stole it, and the Supreme Court basically said, oh, it's not in our jurisdiction, we're not gonna decide on this. We're not even gonna look at it. So there you have where our challenge comes. And how do we go back? I don't know if we can go back and start again at kindergarten, because again, we don't have a voice. So how do you go back to the schools and fight it? I don't think we can.
That's why Christian schools and charter schools
Exactly.
are so popular.
They are, but they're not going to last, because the first thing, so this administration is going back to totally HR 1. They already have it written. They haven't voted on it yet, but HR 1 basically says that Congress at the federal level has total control of every election in the United States. They haven't voted on that yet, but it's waiting. Now, then they're going to take away the guns. They have the Second Amendment. They have a bill out to take away that. And they already have a bill written about taking over, basically forcing every American child to go to public school. Already out there. They have these bills already set. They have hundreds of them. And how do you fight it if they're in charge, if they took everything from us? I mean, imagine, we look at it and go, well, Trump should have won. How many senators, how many representatives, how many other people, all the way down to school board level, how, if they took over our elections, how do we really know who should be in there because we the people chose them? But we the people are still the answer. And there are things going on out there that people are trying to make stuff happen. And again, I'm gonna go, we don't know, right? I mean, I know all the people I hang out with tend to be conservative, right? Pretty much, it's just because it's natural. So I'm pretty tainted on it. But I do believe there are more patriots who want America to go back to our Constitution. Life, liberty, and the pursuit. The ability to pursue without them telling me, oh, you can't do that. I'm gonna shut your business down. I'm gonna keep you from going to school. The pandemic, right? You can't go to church. Oh, we're gonna shut churches down. You can go riot anywhere you want, but you cannot go to church. And there are pastors in jail today because they had a church service. There are pastors in America today because they had a church service. I think we're done. I'm sorry. I could go on forever. Thank you so much, ladies. May God bless you.